Well, welcome to the EXPATTY podcast, Tyler. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about how you ended up going abroad. How did that happen for you?
So I graduated from the University of Utah in 2016, where I played at for the previous 3 years there. After which I participated in 2 NFL pro days. However, I did not get picked up by any teams because I didn't have any representation. So therefore, 2 years after which I just continued to grind and train and stay ready for an opportunity. And then I had a chance to play for a semi-professional team prior to going abroad. The team was called the California Wolfpack here in California. And semi-professional was pretty cool experience for me. But after I was able to get some film from there in 2018, then I attended a workout, and a coach who noticed my film and my game there asked me if I wanted an opportunity to play overseas for a team in Germany. And I was kind of unfamiliar with, the style of play at first because, being from America, they teach you that everything you ever need is here, and you don't have to go outside for anything else. So I was kind of hesitant at first, but after which, I gave it some thought, talked it over with my parents and family, and it was the best idea for me to go overseas and to experience, a different culture, getting out of my comfort zone. And it would actually help me grow, not only just on the field as far as game experience, but as a person overall as well. So it was a cool thing for me to get the opportunity to go overseas and, just get a different lens, get a different perspective on, not just the game of football, but life in general.
Now, did you have any pushback from any of your friends about going to Germany?
A lot of my friends were excited for me. It was a cool opportunity. They really were supportive. I was kind of hesitant and nervous, but, my good friends just told me, hey, it's going to be a good experience. You're going to meet new people, make many connections. And it's just a stepping stone and a start, to getting your career off the ground, both on and off the field. So I had a lot of my friends be very supportive in the idea of me going over there and playing.
Now, did they have any ideas about like what Germany would be like?
Other than what they tell you, teach you in school,
Like, what did you hear? Did you hear anything about like what's it like over there and how?
It's actually completely opposite than the mindset that we think. I think that growing up in America, they only give you like the history of German as being, associated with just the Holocaust and, Hitler, and, just gives you a bad, negative outlook on the country itself. But it's really not like that at all. The people are very friendly, very nice, they're interactive. They're very humane, they're not really materialistic. They look at things from both perspectives, not really just a one-sided viewpoint. So it was really interesting. And I was a little bit shocked because I went over there with that same mindset, thinking that it was going to be, kind of maybe racist a little bit, or maybe, I wasn't going to fit in or things like that. But they were very embracive, and they take loyalty and family and those traditional values very serious in their culture.
Yeah.
They do.
They really do. So when you were over there, you were thinking, wow, this is completely different than what people thought in the States. But what did you think they were like in terms of knowing about America, like the other side of that?
That was very interesting as well, because one thing that I didn't know is that so usually the average German student by the age of 14 or 16 learns at least about 6 different languages, in their schooling system. And, most of the time, the European culture speak Dutch. They don't speak English. So when I was talking to a few people out there, their English was actually very good, and they knew a lot about the American culture, which was surprising to me. That they knew a lot about, my background, me being from Long Beach, Snoop Dogg and the hip hop industry, and, a lot of Americanized movies that are very popular over here. So it was very interesting to find out that even though they are in a different culture, they do know a lot of information about what goes on in America, even with the music, you know,
Yeah.
the rap, and you know, they're very into the now as far and clothing as well. So that was
Yeah.
it was interesting to find that out. It was very shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, because so they knew about America, but like the ideas of what the Americans thought about Germany, they missed the marker. Like it wasn't like what they thought it was like, right? So
Yeah,
why do you
correct.
think that is? Why do you think that is?
I think it's just school system. I mean, it's what you taught being brought up. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, we as American, we're taught that you don't need to go outside anywhere but the U.S. You know, this is the American dream. You
Yeah.
know, and so we try to get a lot of people to gravitate towards us, when actually, you know, it should be the other way around. I would encourage a lot, if not everyone, if you get the opportunity to actually, you know, get out of the country, and get a different perspective, get a new lens, because there's so much information and knowledge like that's just out there, and just different perspectives on how they look at things. Like I think one of the smallest little things, an example would be like in America, you know, we have the brand Nike and we call it Nike, you know,
Yeah.
and just going overseas and living in Stuttgart, I would hear the word Nike, and I'm like, what is Nike? And but it's the same thing, it's just pronounced differently, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I took that small analogy and applied it to everything in life, and it's just like, you know, um, at the end of the day, you don't have to. Our way, as the American way, is not always the only way. If that makes
Right.
sense. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Absolutely.
you know, we believe as Americans that our way is the right way and it's the only way. You know, and I
Hmm.
think that it's kind of important to understand that, you know, other people have perspectives on how they look at things too. You know, and you know, their way can be right way, even though it just may be a little different in sounding or how it looks. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, it gives you a different mindset to know, okay, it's not all about us. You know, other people have a
Yes.
perspective and a say so and things too.
Hmm.
And so I think that was one of the biggest things that jumped out for me.
Okay. So in America, we're always taught, we live in the land of the free, home of the brave. America's a great country and all that. But did you feel like, I know what you're probably going to say, but did you feel like, well, they're a great country too?
I think for me, and especially with being African American, I think that um, it's a lot of social pressures that's taken off of you living overseas, you know, as far as, you know, not having to deal with trouble from the police or law enforcement. It's very acceptable for African Americans to actually go overseas and make a living for themselves. I think
Mhm.
that the social pressures as far as trying to keep up with the Joneses and have the latest and the greatest, that's not the case at all overseas. You know, I actually went. It's funny because I actually went over there with the iPhone 10
Mhm.
and came back with the iPhone 5,
Yeah.
and it was crazy because just the culture change and the perspective that I had shifted for me. It wasn't about, you know, material. It wasn't about having the latest and the greatest. It wasn't about keeping up. It was more so of, you know, being human and, you know, interacting with people and,
Right.
you know, tapping into more of a value side than materialistic side.
Mhm.
And you know, when I got back, a lot of my friends clowned me like, bro, you got this old phone, like what are you doing, you know, this is that and the other. And I was just like, man, honestly, I'm not even worried about keeping up no more. You know,
Right.
it's bigger things that, you know, I got my eyes on out here than trying to, you know, be real materialistic out here.
Yeah,
So
it was more about the relationship, the connection to the people. Did you ever
correct.
go like to have like Sunday cooking, like where you would have cake and coffee with people?
I wouldn't say cake and coffee. I did become a fan of mall touching.
Oh,
A
yeah,
lot,
malt Tuscan, yeah.
a lot of mall touching, and I know that that's one of the favorite German foods that they like to cook, especially for breakfast. So
Uh-huh.
that's one of my favorite dishes that I had. And it was just cool, you know, experience a lot of different foods as well, you know, spatula and, you know, these things I've never tried before, you know, but
Yeah.
it gave me a different outlook on a lot, you know, and it tasted pretty good as well.
What about the
Um,
bakeries? Did you like the bakeries, like with the different cakes and
yes. Well, so me personally, I'm not really a cake guy, but there are a lot of bakeries, and I tried a lot of different breads. because I know that you know, German culture, their food is really based upon a lot of their breads, and it was very tasting. It was very tasting. A lot of pasta that I had, so I had to come back and make sure I'm still in shape, because I did do a lot of good eating out there. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
it was interesting. It was. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little hesitant at first
Yeah.
because I'm looking at the plate like, okay, I haven't seen any of this in my life, you know. But it is. But you kind of get used to it,
Yeah.
and you know, it just becomes part of every day. So it was
Mhm.
cool. It
Any
was
did
cool.
you learn any like German words or phrases?
Yeah, okay. So my first experience, all right. So I try to order a pepperoni pizza, right? Then I'm
Okay.
thinking it's just regular pepperoni. And I get this pizza and it's full of like jalapenos, like and peppers all over it. There's like no meat. And I'm like, what is this? I ordered a pepperoni pizza. And then they were like, no, you have to say salami out here. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I didn't even know, you know, it was just the smallest little things, you know, that I'm like,
Right.
okay, like I didn't even know. And so it was interesting. But yeah, I learned a few words, you know, danke schön, meaning thank
Mhm.
you.
Mhm.
Bitte schön, you're welcome. I also learned how to introduce myself. So I would say, hello, my name is Tyler. Wie heißt du? Uh,
Good.
and so it was interesting. I'm not gonna lie, German language is very hard to pick up. It is.
Yeah.
But I was able to learn a little bit. Thankful for my teammates and some of my coaches who helped me out. I wish I could have picked up the language a lot more. But overall, it was cool. It was cool to actually be able to grab something and then come back and tell it to my mom or my dad or my sister, you know,
Mhm.
and let them experience it a little bit too, to teach them. So it was
Okay.
interesting.
So where did you live? What was the living like? Your
So I stayed
housing.
in Stuttgart, Germany. It's more like a local city, as far as it's a working city, I would say. A lot of the traffic from outside of the downtown area comes in because of the jobs. So there's like heavy traffic usually flowing in and out of the city. But it was a nice area. I stayed in Leinfelden, Echterdingen, which if I could paint a picture, it's like more of a elderly community. So there wasn't like too much activity going on. It was very quiet. What was shocking for me is, like, you know, the structure of the housing. You know, it was very different, and is everything was very, you know, remodeled. I think that the roof is kind of like brick, made out of bricks.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of different for me seeing. But transportation was cool. You know, used the train a lot, which I guess, you know, would save me money on gas if I had a car, if I was out
Yeah.
there. But you meet a lot of interesting people on the train, you know, and
Mhm.
it's very cool to connect. I lived close to a park, so I was able to spend some times outdoors on my free time and everything like that.
Mhm.
A lot of people do a lot of bike riding, so
Yeah.
I kind of got accustomed to that as well. And the living overall, it was nice. One thing that I did think that I enjoyed about it the most was the cost of living was way cheaper than America, I think.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
California in general, because
well,
it's
correct. Yeah,
expensive.
let me just say California. Let me say California for
Yeah.
sure. I was very surprised at the pricing of, you know, certain items, as far as, you know, just everyday water and bread, and, you know, loaves of bread are only like 89 cents, maybe $1. You know, whereas in America you're gonna pay at least 2.99, maybe close to 3. You know, I would say that there's not as big of a variety to choose from,
Mhm.
but it is manageable, as far as, you know, if you're on a budget and, you know, you're not really trying to spend as much, and you're trying to over time, you know, spread it out. It was interesting to see that.
Mhm.
So yeah, the living was nice. Very quiet neighborhoods, you know,
Yeah.
like I said, people walking early. That's one thing I did realize, that a lot of people are up very early, like around 6, 7 o'clock, starting their
Yeah.
days
Mhm.
very early.
Mhm.
But overall, it was a cool time living there, most definitely.
Good. Okay, so what about living over in Germany? How did it change you?
I think it just made me, one, appreciate the small things that I didn't have, or that I may have taken advantage of. For example, when I tried to charge my phone, I didn't know you had to have a different like back cord, you know,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just little small things like that. Like I said, there's not really as big of a variety to choose from as far as, when you go grocery shopping, or, certain materials that they just have here that they don't have overseas, that
Hmm.
you kind of wish that you had. But I think that it just gave me a mindset of peacefulness. Like I said, it's very quiet, and you don't really hear loud music and activity up and down the street. One thing that was shocking as well was just, there's like no trash on the street. It's very clean. There's very a lot of like exotic cars, and you know German engineering, they take pride on that. So I'm seeing a lot
Yeah.
of like, Mercedes and of course it was a higher living. It was a different experience. I noticed that, it's either you're living at the top, or you're just like on your way working there. There's not really a middle class, if I would say.
Hmm.
I came back, and I've seen a lot back in America, a lot of Hondas and Jeeps and Chargers, and really nice cars, but more middle class. It's not
Hmm.
either just top of the line, or you're catching the train. It's one or the other. That was one
Yeah.
thing that I did notice as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
um but like I said, it was very relaxing. I got to do a lot of sightseeing. Unfortunately, because of my schedule with football, I didn't get to visit any other countries at the time.
Okay.
But Germany was pretty big, and I got to go to a lot of different places, seeing castles for the first time. That
Yeah.
I'm just looking like, wow, this is like amazing.
Did you go
Like
to the Hohenzollern Castle by Balingen or there?
I don't believe I did. I went to one in Esslingen.
Oh,
I
okay.
went to I went to a castle in Esslingen, and there were like a grip of stairs that we walked up. It was just like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah, I connected with a lot of good people. Um, Met so many different people from different nationalities. I think that was the biggest thing that was really crazy
Like
for me to see.
Russians and Turkish, African.
Yeah, Turkish,
Mhm.
Eritrean, Bosnian, Croatian. It was
Yeah.
just a lot. It was a lot, and so it was cool because I'm picking up all of these different perspectives and mindsets, from these different cultures,
Yeah.
and really was able to, not just have my own set way of thinking. That's what one thing I really was grateful for, was my
So,
changing and thought process.
so were you able to kind of bend the way you think more towards, well, I'm over in this country now, and so I have to kind of respect how they do things? It wasn't about like, well, I'm American and this is how we do
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah, I hear you. Honestly, I never really had the mindset of, I'm American, this is how I do things. Just because I think, as much as I was just being my natural self, that would rub off on the Germans that I were around. And we kind of connected in that aspect. I'm a very down to earth, chill guy. And
yeah.
you'll be surprised, like I said, they know a lot of the American culture. So it wasn't really more so of a lack of information that they had. It was just more of a awe. Like, I'm very interested to see how you act and how you go about doing things, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just your everyday the everyday little things that you do, from the way that you wear your hairstyle, to how you tie your shoes, to the type of clothes just it was more so of observation for them than actually me trying to be like on a higher status or a higher level
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
anything. It was interesting, and it
Uh,
was cool because it made it seem like somebody actually takes the time to care about those little things.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was cool. It was really cool for me.
So, how do you think young people in California, more specifically, since you live there, how could they benefit from going to Germany? I mean, would you try to encourage that?
Yeah, I would. I think that stepping out of US land, going anywhere, traveling, is always just gonna give you a different perspective. Just like I said, because we're taught that, you don't have to go anywhere else, and this is the place that you need to be. So you're automatically gonna get a different experience. But I would say, just for the connection of people, and you never know, what could possibly spur out of you meeting somebody. And I was very grateful. Like, I was able to start a clothing line just for meeting a guy out there who already was established with his clothing line. And he was able to, put me on a lot of tips and resources, and they're very helpful. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not competition. It's not very competitive. It's not, I'm gonna help you, but I'm gonna really watch to see what you're doing because I don't want you to really be better than what I've got going on.
Right, right.
It's not that sense at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really cool. It was very genuine, very
Mhm.
humane. So yes, I would definitely encourage anybody from America, if they get the opportunity, especially if you're single with no kids, go travel, go live, go experience. The partying is great, the sightseeing is great, the food is great. Um, it's going to take some time to get adjusted to the food. I'm not going to lie, because you're going to have those craves and those urges that you're used to. But I just think that it's more of a healthier lifestyle overall.
Right. You didn't see a
More,
lot of fast food there, did you?
not at all. And the thing is that, a lot of places close, I think, at 10, maybe 10,
Yeah.
maybe 11.
Mhm.
And so you rarely catch anything. I don't think I've seen any fast food that was like 24-hour.
Right.
Open or anything like that. A lot of the meals are cooked. I know that, the water is fresher. The fruit out there and vegetables are a lot cleaner. And the produce as well. So you see a lot of lean people walking around. There's not a lot of obesity in the
Mhm.
European culture. You could definitely tell. And so that was one of the biggest differences that I've seen as well, just as far as the people.
Mhm.
Also.
And as an African American, you felt safe, I'm sure. And was that ever an issue, like, with racism or anything? I mean, I know in Berlin there are some issues with the neo-Nazis, but you were
Hmm.
in the South, and so it's a little different. But
Correct.
yeah.
I think that in the South, like I said, I've never experienced any racism at all. Never had one confrontation with the police. I do know that certain clubs were kind of hesitant on letting us in, just because in Germany there are a lot of refugees that come over from other different countries, mainly Africa, and they kind of dress not as, how can I say, extravagant, and so because of that, they kind of get a mental picture and may associate you with being a refugee. I experienced that a couple of times until I started talking, and then they hear that, my
Right,
language is not, what they thought it was. And then
right,
it's like, oh, you're from America. Oh, like, and then, it's a whole nother vibe. So
right, right,
I think
right.
that probably had to be the biggest thing, if anything. Like I said,
Uh-huh.
it's a cultural shock. Germans are not racist at all that I know of. At least the South part that I was in. I
Mhm.
didn't have any issues with any neo-Nazi or any Confederate, anything like that. Or probably it was
Mhm.
cool. It was a cool time, very embracive, and very loving. Most definitely.
Mhm. So you'll
Most
definitely go
definitely.
back again someday?
I would most definitely. I can't tell you when. That's just depending on God and how things work out as far as football wise. But
Yeah.
I do plan on, if not the near future, later down the road, returning. Most definitely.
And how
Most
long were you
definitely.
there again?
I believe about 8 or 9 months. I left at the end of February, beginning of March, and returned mid-October.
Mhm.
So I'd
Mhm.
say about 8 or 9 months. The first 2 months, it was just shocking for me. I was just trying to adapt, and
Yeah.
it was big. The first 2 months, I'm telling anybody, it's gonna be different, just because you have to get used to the culture and how things are. And
Yeah.
I've traveled from state to state,
Yeah.
but you start to realize, like, this is not just another state. Like, there's a different governing, there's different laws, there's different
Yeah.
rules, regulations. Like, it's
Yeah.
not it's not what you normally think. And so it took me about 2 months to really adjust and to figure out Europe. And I think after that, I was more comfortable. I was able to settle in and really get acclimated with how things move.
Okay, so were there any other expats or people from America that you met over there?
From America while I was over there, yeah, you meet a lot of people, mainly in the military, who are on base.
Mhm.
And so I got to connect with a lot of people there. From time to time, you will find other people who are traveling abroad as well. I know I did meet a couple people who said that they were from the Michigan area, who had studied at the U of M, which was cool to connect with. And it was interesting. I can say there are a lot of Europeans and Germans who have traveled to the U.S., you know, and that have been to Hollywood and L.A. area, Disneyland, experience all of our iconic things that we have, you know. So I was able to connect in that way as well. But yeah, outside of, the imports that were also on my team and which I connected with against the teams we played with, and then the military base, majority of them were just, out there from either previous experiences or just traveling at the moment. So
how did the girls like you? I'm sure the girls loved you.
Oh, honestly, it was very difficult for me.
Was it?
Yeah, it was very difficult. It's funny. I'm not a social media type of guy. I'm an in-person, walk up to you, hey, I think you're beautiful. How are you doing? Talk to you in person. And it was a cultural shock to see that they don't really like that. They're more wanting to write, want to text, get to know you type of deal first. And so, which I have no problem with. That was cool. But like I said, the first 2 months I didn't learn the language, and that was tough because a lot of girls that I tried to engage conversation with, I just couldn't connect with because I didn't know the language. So I think that there was probably a physical attraction, but as far as actually, dialogue and communication, they're very timid on speaking English. They're more comfortable speaking the Dutch language. So once I was able to, say, how's doing fond, which means do you have a boyfriend? Once I got a little thing, a little going like that, it was a little bit easier for me. But
what's the name of your clothing line?
My name of the clothing line is Totally Committed 25-8. And that basically is just, standing for, putting in overtime, and, going the extra mile, staying committed and dedicated to achieving any goal, not just athletics, but in any field, and so what I'm really trying to do is just build that up, get that going, and just encourage people, to chase their dreams and live in their purpose on a daily basis.
So if someone wants to purchase something, I mean, how would that work? You have a website?
Yeah, so right now they can go online at tylercooperwood.com, where the website is uploaded. They can make orders also via Instagram at Totally Committed 25-8. No matter what situation you may be in or what position in life you may be in, every day, wake up, chase your dreams, chase your goals, write them down and accomplish it because it's possible, And one thing I have been doing lately, I've been reading up on self-discipline. And I've been reading upon how that self-discipline is actually the main key to success. And so I've been encouraging a lot of people to, establish that self-discipline. And, if people don't know what it is, I'll give the definition for you real briefly. Self-discipline is just simply doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, whether you like it or not. And I think that, that's a major key in success, and, these are things that I talk about with my clothing line. It's just not just wearing clothes, but it has a purpose and a meaning behind it. When I came back, one thing that I did realize is how selfless that they are in Germany and how selfish we are over here in America.
Interesting.
That was one of the biggest things that really hit me. Even just the smallest thing as far as my clothing line. I had people who supported my clothing line out in Germany just off the strength of it was something attached to me. Not just because I play football or just because it looked cool, but because it meant something to me, so it meant something to them.
Interesting. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That was the main thing that I was able to grasp from that. And coming back over here in America, it's not really like that. Everybody has their own agenda and what they're got going on, which is perfectly fine at the end of the day. But it just goes to show you that there is a difference. You know what I mean? And I can honestly say that the vast majority of people who actually participated and, you know, bought my items and my clothing, weren't all just from football fan base. You know, these were, you know, people who I were coming up to, introducing myself, meeting on the train, meeting maybe at a local party or a bar or so. And just off the strength of the vibe and energy that we connected with in the conversation, you know, they felt and wanted to support. And you get a lot of people out here in America who say one thing, but, you know, the action is very, very hard to follow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
And you notice the difference in that too. You know, if a European person or a German person says they're going to do it, it's like
they're going to do
99.99 they're going to do it, you know? So
yeah,
that was something that I really appreciated too. You know, they really stood on their word. I was able to find out a lot about myself. One thing I realized is that Europe exposes you as an American. It exposes a lot of our American ways. It exposes a lot of how we think. I think I went over there entitled and came back more selfless than anything. And that was big for me, you know, as far as, you know, my generation, you know, being young, 25, 26, you know, we feel the world owes us everything. You know?
Ain't that the truth? I know.
We feel the world owes us everything. And, you know, that's not really the case, you know?
No, not at all.
And I think that is very important to understand that mindset and concept. So,
wow, I would say that's a great thing to have learned from everything that you did going over there. Just learning that is amazing. Exactly. That's awesome.
And just selfless and humane. Just selfless and humane. And the value system is a lot different.
Wow. Well, you know what, Tyler, I want to thank you so much for talking to me.
I appreciate you for having me anytime. It was great. Any knowledge I could share, I'm open and willing to.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you, Tyler. Well, you have a good day in California.
Thank you so much.
California.
Thank you so much. You have a good one as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Remember to subscribe to the EXPATTY podcast. Thanks for listening.